Thank you, Chris.
I want to bring in Congresswoman Sherry Bustos, a Democrat of Illinois, who's running for chair of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. Also with me, Democratic pollster and MSNBC analyst Cornell Belcher. Congresswoman, so we're now looking in the range of 36 to 38, 39 seats for Democrats. If you had to say, what's the one big lesson you've taken away from election night, what is it?
I think it's that you show up, you listen, you work hard, and you have candidates that fit their districts like a glove. And I want to say congratulations to my good friend Kyrsten Sinema, who will be the next senator of Arizona. She's an example on a statewide level of somebody who listens, who cares, who is relatable. And for a Democrat to win in Arizona statewide, it just shows you if you've got the right candidate with the right work ethic, if you've got the resources to get your messaging out, we can be successful. And she's one example in our 30-plus districts, and maybe as many as 39, as you reported earlier, show that we did a pretty darn good job of making sure that our candidates fit their district, and we did so much right this election cycle.
Cornell, it's interesting this Congresswoman talks about candidates fitting the district. You know, a lot of these fights end up being about ideology, where people place on a spectrum, and you see a lot of these battles fought about that. But it did strike me that candidate quality really does matter, and you see it in a lot of these races and a lot of the numbers. What do you think of that?
Well, first, let me say, congratulations to the Congresswoman. You all did a fantastic job of recruiting and building infrastructure, and hopefully we'll continue to stand up that infrastructure across the country, because the DPCC really did expand the map in a way that, quite frankly, we haven't seen done in a long time, long time. On the candidate front, what I think is most interesting here, Chris, is that you see a lot of candidates who do not look like typical candidates for Senate or Congress. And I think if you look at the energy, I think, we had a 32% increase in turnout this year, which is a tremendous amount of increase. A lot of these new people, a lot of them women candidates, and you look at sort of the gender gap advantage that Democrats took here, a lot of these new candidates that they recruited that fit these districts bring that energy, but we also have to underline the Trump effect here and we can't act like we didn't get this opportunity because so many, particularly women and better educated voters across the country, as well as minorities, were really upset and wanted to put a check on Trump this election.
Congresswoman, it's going to be a record number of women serving the United States Congress, even though it's still nowhere near 50-50 parity as the country is, and a bunch of people coming from all sorts of backgrounds. There's several candidates of color, African Americans, who are representing majority white districts. It's going to be a very interesting mix. How do you see this new coalition working?
Oh, I think it's going to work absolutely great. You threw out there women of color. Let me also recognize Lauren Underwood, who won in a very tough district that nobody even thought was in play in my home state of Illinois. So proud of her.
And my client.
Well, you know what? You did a good job,
Cornell. All right.
Well, you did a great job with her. She's going to be an amazing member of Congress. I mean, look at people like Alyssa Slotkin, Abby Finkenauer, Cindy Axney, Katie Hill. I hope Katie Porter, I hope she'll be able to pick it up. But we have these amazing women all over the United States who, in many cases, self-selected, decided that on their own they were going to run. And so, Cornell, I appreciate the shout-out to the D-Trip and saying we did such a great job at recruitment. But there were many candidates who watched what happened in November of 2016 and said, I've got to do something about this. Yes. And Lauren Underwood was one of those candidates. And I'm just, I think we're going to have an amazing freshman class, and we're going to get some amazing things done.
You know, Cornell, on that point, right, one of the lessons to me here is don't think ahead of who is a right candidate for a. I mean, one of the things that we see is people defying expectations. I mean, even when you look at Stacey Abrams in Georgia, where she's maybe heading towards recount or runoff, she still outperformed the last Democratic gubernatorial candidate by 200,000 votes in Georgia.
It's not even close. But to that point, Chris, I want to encapsulate something here. Trump continues to narrow the Republican Party. Look, we are in a toss-up in Georgia, a traditionally red state. We just flipped a seat in Arizona, again, a traditional state. The West is, state by state. We flipped Nevada in 2008, Colorado, and now Arizona. And where Republicans did well are traditional Republican states. Democrats are on the march and with new candidates and a new energy here, and we are making inroads in Republican places that if you're a Republican thinking about 2020, I think you have a tougher map now than I think Democrats do.
I think it's a tougher map than it looked in 2016. That is for sure, particularly with the news out of Arizona. Congresswoman Sherry Bustos and Cornell Belcher, thank you both.